Hey guys, Bix Weir, Road to Ruta. Have an amazing discussion with the U.S. Mint here. Um, a few things I want to say before I get going on this. I might stop and comment, might not. Um, I really respect the guy I'm talking to, Jack Sermon. Jack works for the U.S. Mint, has for 35 years. He heads the Silver Eagle bullion sales. We have a very long and good conversation, and there are things going on at the Mint that shouldn't be going on. And it is very clear by the end of the conversation. I have to break this up. It was very long, about an hour and a half. So I'm going to break it up in parts. This is part one, where we're kind of getting to know each other. For pretty much the entire conversation is recorded. I talked to him about some personal stuff on his side and my side that I didn't want to put in this. But you guys are hearing the entire conversation. This is part one. And part 2 and 3, we get into the real specifics of what is going on with the Silver Eagle program. And it is a conspiracy. It is people doing things that are breaking the law. And this is the head of the Silver Eagle bullion mint sales, Jack Sermon. This guy knows what he's talking about, and he is in on the decision making, although they don't take his recommendations all the time. So I'm going to play, the first part is about 20 minutes. Listen to it, and I'll stop on occasion and comment. Here we go. The date is May 31st, 2023. I just got a message from the U.S. Mint, Jack Sermon of the bullion program. And I am going to call him right now and ask him questions about what's going on. Here we go.
Bix Weir.
Jack, how are you?
I'll spend a couple of months in D.C., a couple of months on the West Coast, and they pretty much Treasury pretty much lets me do my thing. I've got 35 years in.
Wow.
I run their bullion business, and I have for 35 years.
Well, good.
So
you're the man.
And they just they don't want to let go of me because they can't find anyone to replace me.
Isn't that a great position to be in?
Yeah, and so they said, you can work from home, you can do whatever you want. So I'm pushing 70, but I don't mind it. I got a couple of guys that run most of the trading desk for me. And then we've got some, they're kind of junior, which is why nobody was able to answer any of your questions.
Okay.
Which none of which are secret by any means. And I'm happy to tell you what's going on with the Mint silver bullion market, if you're so interested.
I am absolutely interested. There's all kinds of rumors and scuttlebutt. Why can't we get Eagles? Why do we have to pay double the price?
Right. Are you just a private investor, or are you?
I'm a private investor, and I got a website about investing, like a blog type of thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, so the story is, your federal government has been making these since 1986.
Mm-hmm.
And you were kind of right, but when you said the Mint was supposed to be making them to demand, the original enabling legislation that Congress passed did in fact say that the Treasury, through its Bureau of the Mint, would produce these coins to meet market demand. That's true. What you're apparently not aware of is that legislation was amended a number of years ago.
Mm-hmm. And that the amendment was so that the Treasury Secretary could decide whether or not they were meeting demand.
Well, basically, it basically kind of that, but it basically went from the U.S. Mint will meet demand to the Secretary shall produce them in quantities that the Secretary deems appropriate.
Deems that meet demand, right?
No, that the Secretary deems appropriate.
Okay.
So there's nothing in there about the Secretary trying to meet demand.
Oh.
Do we strive to meet demand? Of course we do.
Okay. Just to pause 1 second. Jack did get that wrong, and I'll go through it, I think, in part of this video, but also later on we discussed that but it is very specific and it's very important to the understanding of whether or not the U.S. Mint should be making these Silver Eagle coins.
Because the more we sell, the more we make.
Right.
And the more we make, by and large, any profit generated through the Mint's bullion program is by and large returned to Treasury, to the general fund.
So right now in this discussion, my mind is racing at each point that I've talked about for years. It is illegal for the U.S. Mint to mark up the Silver Eagles to make a profit. It is illegal for them not to meet demand. So I want to give him time to explain everything, and then we get into it in a bit.
Help reduce the national debt.
Right. Well,
so our interest is to sell as much as possible. So, bit of history here is, prior to 2008, and you know what 2008 was all about, of course, right?
Unfortunately, I do. Yeah.
Prior to 2008, so between 1986 and 2008, the Mint was producing these Silver Eagles, and typically there before 2008, the most we would sell, in other words, market demand, never really exceeded 10 million ounces.
Right.
That was it. And then 2008 came about, and it wasn't a matter of demand jumping 10 or 15% a year, which the Mint could have handled. Demand jumped exponentially.
Right.
And the Mint went from selling 10 million a year to, I think by 2015, it was close to 50.
I remember when you guys were in the middle of that. And so just to be clear, a little backstory on this. The numbers he's saying is correct. The reason in 2008 it jumped massively is that's when J.P. Morgan bought out Bear Stearns and tried to get rid of their silver short position by buying as many physical silver products as possible, taking delivery off the COMEX, taking delivery out of SLV, and taking delivery of U.S. Silver Eagles that the Mint was required to make. So it was a single entity. It was J.P. Morgan buying and massively increasing the capacity that this guy Jack had to sell. He was required by law. Now, I didn't get into him about that. He's not allowed to talk about that stuff. But I believe, and Ted Butler has outlined this and tracked all these inventories. And that's why the Silver Eagle jumped so much from 2008 to 2014-15. And then JP Morgan was taken out of that position. I was telling everybody, get your Silver Eagles. It's a beautiful coin. It's the best coin in the world.
So yes, there is history of the Mint making close to 50 million Silver Eagles a year. But then demand fell off. And the big question internally, of course, was how far will demand fall off? Because the Mint by then was earning, millions of dollars and, billions of dollars in revenue and millions of dollars in profit by then. And so it had come to rely on its bullion program to generate a lot of profit, a lot of revenue and profit for the U.S. Mint. So the big question was, we know it's not going to stay at 50 million, but is it going to drop back to 10 million pre-2008, which would be a disaster for the U.S. Mint? Mm-hmm. But by and large, everyone agreed that it will fall back to some new equilibrium level, and that level over the years seemed to come down to, I would say, close to around 14 million. Yeah. That seemed to be the new low, and we got to a point a few years ago where demand was only 14 million.
Okay. Yeah, that was
and we met that demand.
Right.
Now that demand has started going north again. There seems to be another paradigm shift in demand again, and demand is certainly north of 30 million a year. And the way we know that, Bix, is we talk to our primary dealers. Just like Treasury sells auctions off bills and notes in wholesale quantities to primary dealers. The Mint sells its bullion coins through a small group of primary dealers.
Okay, so, well, here we have Jack Sermon, the head of Silver Eagle Bullion Sales, saying the demand is north of 30 million coins. Again, the law is that, as decided by the Treasury Secretary, that she has to, in her opinion, has to sell Eagles to meet demand. Jack Sermon is the number one guy to understand exactly what the Silver Eagle Bullion Sales demand is. That's his job. He's the only guy who would know this because he talks to all the buyers. And he asks them, what is demand every day? How many do you want? How many do you want? He's saying that the demand for Silver Eagles is over 30 million Silver Eagles. And then keep listening. It gets good.
Right. And we have a fancy name that we made up. We happen to call them authorized purchasers, but in the financial industry, from where I came, I still call them primary dealers because that's what they are. They're primary dealers.
And that's where the market is really coming from, because they're seeing the demand, but they're not getting the coins. So
no, the market, the coins are sold at a fixed premium to the primary dealers.
Right.
And I don't know if you know what it is.
It was $3 for a while, but I don't know what it is now.
Yes, I think it's about $2.95. Okay. So that's public information. That's no secret. And then once the primary dealers have them, the Mint is out of it. The Mint, the federal government is not going to come in and regulate what a private sector company is going to charge.
Absolutely. I agree.
So once we sell to the primary dealers at $2.95 an ounce, and they'll go get them at the West Point Mint where they're struck, then the premium charge to investors is a function of two things. How many the investor is buying? Are you calling some precious metals dealer and saying, "Oh, I want to buy Silver Eagles," and they say, "How many?" 10.
Yeah.
They're going to go, "Well, not interested."
Right.
Or are you a guy that's saying, "I want 100, 200, 3?" 100 is sort of an investment quantity. So it's like Costco. The more you buy, the lower the premium.
Right.
And same thing in precious metals. And then that's number one. And then the second thing that governs it, as you know, is supply and demand. And since demand has started to go back up, the Mint, and it's no secret, the Mint has said this, the Mint can no longer meet demand.
But why? I mean, you did in 2020. You made 30 million coins. In 2021, you made 28 million. And then in 2022, all of a sudden, it's 15.9. And then right now, you're projected for 12. So you guys are going in the opposite direction.
There's a lot of moving parts to this.
Right.
Some of it has to do with the fact that, bullion coins are struck on what's called a 3/9 fine blank.
Mm-hmm.
And, back in 2008 and a few years after that, the silver bullion coin was the primary taker of 3/9 fine blank. We also produced a proof version of the bullion version, which back in the day when I used to run that program would maybe generate $800,000 a year.
Mm-hmm.
And then also produced what was called an uncirculated version.
Right.
Both uncirculated and proof are both numismatic, what we call numismatic versions.
Right.
And those numismatic versions, as you're probably aware, can be purchased directly from the Mint. So back then, those numismatic versions plus bullion was the primary uptake for all the silver 3/9 blanks that we could get.
Mm-hmm.
Since then, the Mint has introduced a lot of other programs that now utilize a 3/9 fine blank. Mm-hmm. So now all of a sudden, my Silver Eagle Bullion program is competing with all these other numismatic programs that the Mint has that also need a 39 silver blank. And the kicker for all of this is there is only one supplier.
Sunshine.
And they're the only one that the Mint has had for I don't know how long.
Right.
And the Mint has been telling Congress and anybody who comes screaming at the Mint, it's a very political town. So when we have a Democratic administration like we do now, you have the Republicans on the Hill coming after the Mint and saying, you're mismanaging the federal government's bullion program. Demand is 35 million. You're only producing 12 million. I want congressional hearing. It goes on and on and on and on. And then if the Republicans are in power, the Democrats are going to say the same thing. Doesn't matter who's in office, what administration it is. The bottom line is there is only one supplier. And the Mint has been saying to everyone or anybody on Capitol Hill that's asked about it and or the public that we are dutifully, exploring other potential blank manufacturers and suppliers. The Mint has been saying that for 10, 15 years.
I know that, yeah.
And it's simply, and it's not my swim lane. It's in the Mint's procurement office. I'm on the trading desk. I don't run the Mint's procurement business. Right. So that's the China law between me and them.
Right.
And so they've been saying they've been trying to find suppliers for 10, 15 years, and they've been unable to do so. So the number of coin programs within the Mint that require a 3/9 fine blank has proliferated, and that's why the Mint has to allocate whatever number of blanks it can get from Sunshine. It has to divide them up between bullion, proof eagle, uncirculated eagle, the new Morgan silver dollar which is a legislated program, right?
Well, so's the silver bullion.
We don't have the option not to make it. We are required.
Wait. Isn't the silver bullion program the same exact legislated program that you have to? I mean, I'm reading the law right now. The changed law, it does say secretary determines, true, are sufficient to meet public demand. It still says that in the law, and you did it in 2020. What was it? 2021 and 2020. I mean, 2020 you made 30
million or so, something like that.
21 you made 28, and then all of a sudden, after the redesign kicked in, it was massive allocation issues. I talked to Sunshine Mint, and he says they've never been busier. But most of the blanks they're making are going to other mints, like the Royal. The Maple Leaf has overtaken the Silver Eagle, and it's just so sad to see.
I know. I mean, for someone that's been here for 35 years and seeing the Silver Eagle be the global leader in this investment, silver bullion
for your whole career.
And so, unfortunately, that's where we're at. I'm only given so many blanks, at the beginning of the year. There are certainly folks well above my pay grade that make the determination which programs in the Mint get how many blanks. And so, yes, it is an internal Mint management decision to only produce. I think this year, it's going to be. Originally it started out at about 14 million.
You're on track for 12.9.
And now we recently acquired another 4 million. So we're going to start allocating those into the marketplace. So I'm not sure what the final number will be. It will be under 20.
Yeah. So
certainly,
I mean, clearly, someone's making the decision. I mean, the demand's there. We all agree on that.
Yeah.
And people are still buying Eagles at $15 markups, which is crazy to me. But at the same time, if you can't get the coins, I mean, that's where the problem is. And to me, this all started in the middle of 2021. That's when the decline really happened, right after the change out to the new design. and
Yeah.
and it literally dropped in half, and
Yeah.
and has not
It-
come back at all.
What you might want to take a look at is what were the competing 3/9 spine numismatic platform programs that came out around that time. One of the bigger ones was I think it was the Morgan piece. I think that was struck on a 3/9.
That's sold out quickly, right?
So suddenly, senior management within the U.S. Mint has got all these coin programs that has to produce, and they're all struck on the same blank, and they only have one supplier.
Right.
So senior management has to make a decision who gets what.
See, but that's not the law.
I'm not saying it. I'm not saying it's the right decision.
Right.
Obviously, I'm the product manager for the Mint's bullion business, and I would prefer to get all the blanks.
Right. But the law is very clear, even after it was changed, such that the U.S. Treasury Secretary gets to decide. But the language of the law is very clear, just like the other programs that are mandated. This says, notwithstanding any other provision of law, the Secretary shall mint and issue in qualities and quantities that the Secretary determines are sufficient to meet public demand. I mean,
well, there you go. Well, you might be right. You might be right. I haven't read the legislation in a long time.
Right.
I mean, the other curious question.
I do want to point out that yes, he admits that he had it wrong in his mind. He's in charge of sales of silver bullion eagles. He has talked to senior management, the people who go to Janet Yellen, and he said the demand for silver eagles is 30 to 35 billion. He's been saying that for a couple of years, and they aren't giving him the coins to do that. Now they're saying, one of his excuses is allocated to other programs like the peace dollars and the Morgan dollars and things like that. But that amount didn't even come close to what they made in those prior years. They can get the silver. They've done it in 2021 and 2020 and 2021 or 2020, 20 and 21. But they aren't doing it now. Now it's half. So that whole argument that they can't get the blanks or that they're being used at something else goes completely out the window because they did it before. They did it prior to this current administration running the Silver Eagle program procurement. Now remember, Jack is part of the sales. He runs the sales division. He told procurement. He told his bosses. He told them exactly what demand is, 30 to 35 million ounces. They are choosing illegally not to produce those.
When the decisions are made within the Bureau, the U.S. Mint is a bureau of the Department. So we're a bureau. So the Bureau is making the decisions on how many Silver Eagle bullion coins it will make and it will allocate into the marketplace.
Right.
And so someone astute, such as yourself, would think, because I asked the same question internally, is if you regurgitate the enabling legislation that you just did, then my question has always been, so who is telling the Secretary Yellen right now? Who is telling Yellen how many we plan on producing?
Yeah.
Number one,
she made a commercial about Silver Eagles too.
And number two, also conveying to her what demand is. So
yeah,
is the Secretary even aware? And it would be up to the Bureau to inform her what demand is. And I don't know the answer to that. I would be surprised if she has been briefed on what demand is.
I would think she is, because she did make a commercial for the Silver Eagles. I love that commercial. And she's like, this is great for collectors and all this. I'm like, well, why don't you make them for collectors? Oh, from this end, it's so frustrating to see my face. I mean, I'm benefiting because I have mostly Silver Eagles and they're like, I can sell them for double the price. But to see the program implode the way it has and become number 2 or number even 3, I don't know. I don't even know if it's number 2 still in the world as far as popularity. It leaves a sour taste in all my customers' mouths.
Everybody I talk
Absolutely.
to is like, "Oh my God, what is happening at the Mint?"
And you can imagine someone like me, that came here 35 years ago, came from the financial industry, and brought this program from zero awareness to the number one traded bullion coin in the world, to seeing what's happened to it now after 35 years. You can imagine.
Yeah.
I can't. It's hard for me to. It's hard for me to witness what's happened, and I got to tell you, I don't see any remedy in sight.
That is part one. As you can tell, it took me a while to get him to relax and kind of say what he really believes, that someone or something or some entity is destroying the Silver Eagle program. He knows it. He knows that the U.S. Mint is not creating Silver Eagles to meet demand. He knows they can, because they did in the prior administration, no problem. And yet he cannot. He's not allowed to. I like this guy, Jack, and we get into a lot more stuff in parts 2 and 3, and maybe even a part 4. It was a long conversation. We talk about the price they charge, the illegality of making a profit for bullion tokens. He talks about lawyers that have told him, lawyers in different administrations who told him the truth, and then new lawyers who don't. It's really good conversation. We also talk about the $112 million hit that the U.S. Mint took on its crazy hedge book. And he didn't know about that. I walked him through that. We talk about a lot of other things. If you don't think this guy is the real deal, keep an eye on Silver Eagle production. Today is it's like the beginning of June. Take a look at production for the rest of June, July, the rest of the year. You're going to see it going from 900 coins to 1.3 million is what he's saying. Right now they're doing 900,000 Silver Eagles per month to 1. He says they're going to ramp up to 1.3. They've been given an extra 4 million coins. We'll see what happens. But clearly they've been doing 900 a month. This is just to tell you that this was a guy from the U.S. Mint. This wasn't a crank call. I called their bulk purchase program. I asked to speak with someone who knows what they were talking about. Jack called me back, and he's an upstanding guy. He's just working in a situation where he thinks there's nothing he can do about it. And I think there is a lot we can do about it. Jack works for We the People. Ventris Gibson works for We the People. Janet Yellen works for We the People. And We the People are demanding that they get the Silver Eagle program up and running again. All right. Be prepared. Part 2 is coming very soon. This is Bix Weir. Go to roadtoruta.com for all the other information you need to know about the U.S. Mint and the Silver Eagle conspiracy. I'll talk to you later.